Grant? This will go really quick. Can you see, Dunia? Can you see that? Okay. This will go very quick, but let me tell you, this is a very fast assignment. This whole assignment, probably, you could get it done in maybe 45 minutes. Okay? But we're going to do it a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit the next day. We always kind of overlap our projects. So, if you do, there's a little task that you have to do today, Matt. There's a little task that you have to do today. And if you do that, then you'll have time to work on matting your small landscapes or mounting them, whatever you need to do, or painting some more, okay? So you have time to get both done, all right? We're going to talk about design. When artists do create a piece of art, they think very much about design, and they think about how they arrange things on the paper. And so far we've just been practicing techniques. Well, now we're going to start thinking about creating good design. And the one thing that you're going to do today is you're going to create a value pattern. And remember, value means, who can tell me? It's right there. What does value mean? Who knows? Light, medium, and dark, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
Light, medium, and dark. So we're going to have a pattern that's with just the light, medium, and dark. This happens all the time, guys. You see it constantly, especially because you're always looking at screens. On the TV screen, movies, TV shows, they are using these value patterns to make every picture that you see more interesting. And so they've done it in this poster. So what they do is they take an uneven distribution of light, medium, and dark. So we have kind of a small amount of medium value, being that yellow, into the orange. We have a medium amount of light, being their faces and the name Twilight, and the moon, all the important stuff, right? And then we have a large amount of dark. This is an unusual value pattern, but when they do that, it makes a much more interesting painting. If you go back to, you gotta stop that. If you go back to your small landscapes, and you look at the ones that are maybe not as successful, they might be all medium values. And if you went in and you put, washed out a little bit and got a little light, and you put it in a little dark, you would probably have a more powerful painting. Okay, so here's another one. The other thing they do is they create a focal point. They create one area where they want you to look, all right? And one's the star of the poster, if you could say. So what do you think the star of this poster is? Gus. Where do you think the artist wants you to look?
The girl.
The girl's face. Yes. So that would be called the focal point. And everything else kind of supports it and leads up to it. So one area is more interesting. So you are going to find designs today out of magazines. I'm going to show you how in a few minutes. And they are going to have an uneven distribution of values. It doesn't have to be these percentages. This is just an example. Usually, most of your paintings are mostly medium value, and then they use a little bit of light and some supporting dark to kind of punch up the focal point. That is one way to create a value pattern. And then the focal point being the star of the painting. You can create it using contrast, you can create it using line, color, texture, shape, or value. Those are the elements of art, the tools. Another thing they do all the time, and some of you guys might know this, the rule of thirds. Has anyone heard of the rule of thirds? If you have photography or if you've had drawing, this happens again all the time in movies and your TV shows. They take the focal point, maybe it's the person's face or maybe it's the dagger that the bad guy's going after. They put it off center and they use what's called the rule of thirds. And what it is you divide the paper into thirds to both directions. That's why it's called the rule of thirds. But the other way you do it is you just put a tic-tac-toe on top of your design, and any place that the lines intersect is a good place to put your focal point. Now, if you weren't taught this, you would probably put the focal point in the middle. And it happens all the time. The middle is not as interesting to your brain, because if you put it right in the middle, the space all around it is all the same. When you put it off to the side a little bit, the space around it is different, and your brain is entertained by that, the negative space. So for example, in this photograph, using contrast, the light flowers are the lightest light. Humans are very attracted to light, so quite often, you don't have to always do this, but quite often you use the light area as your focal point. And then you punch it up with some contrast. See how there's more detail, there's more focus there. Everything else leads up to it. So these are the tools we use: line, color, shape, texture, and value. We've been working with those. Here's a painting by Audra, she still goes to school here, an abstract flower. And you can see that the bright white on the flower makes that area stand out more. So she used contrast. This is a final watercolor. You'll see some more slides of these later. And you can see that the eyes really pop because of the contrast of the white and the dark. These are the principles of art: balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, rhythm, and unity. Contrast is what we're using here. You know, when we put near the focal point, we put light and dark, you know, so we're using contrast. You might end up using some movement to kind of lead the eye through the page. Here's some paintings. So this is a Minnesota painter. What do you think the focal point of this abstract is? Liliana. Not going to get her. Jordan.
The two X's?
The two X's. Yes, very good. And why would you say that?
Well, because they're dark inside the light, but like why?
Because there's light next to dark.
Or?
You said that. And also because they're X's, because of the shape.
Yeah.
That's right. The other thing is, you see those orange circles that kind of lead you up to them?
Hugs and kisses, X's and O's.
Yeah, X's and O's, hugs and kisses. And the O's kind of lead you up to the X's. Here's another one. Now on this one, she's used to create the emphasis. You see the bright, intense red?
Mm.
That's the only shape that is not textured, so it's the smooth shape next to that white, smooth face. Makes those stand out because of the contrast of the texture and the dark around it. This one, what do you think the focal point is on this one? Thanks, Jordan.
The face in the, like, it's kind of in the middle of all.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it would almost be maybe a little more interesting if it was cropped off. But there's something about that space down at the bottom being so smooth that there's a balance thing going on in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that contrast of that white shape next to the dark shape next to the face, because we're attracted to the things that are recognizable like the face. Our abstracts are going to be more abstract than that, and they're going to look a little bit like this. And so this is one, but we're also going to add some other things to it. But this is what we'll do tomorrow. You can see they use some sgraffito, maybe a little plastic wrap. There's another abstract. Matt, what's the focal point on this one? The orange? I don't know. There's an awful lot of orange. Do you think that's the focal point? Someone else. Nick, what do you think the focal point is?
Yeah, that's a fourth at the top.
The circle, the large circle, the only circle in there. Yeah, very good. Here's a nice abstract. You know, no subject. We have that, the largest light shape is probably what would be the focal point. And possibly the lines leading right to it. This is a real large painting. Here's another one a student did. So they're going to be loose and fun. Here's one that an AP student did. And here's this, but she didn't do this one in painting one, she did it later on, but she applied the same principles. And here's the really cool thing about this. This painting works really well in the AP portfolio. You might not be able to put your small landscapes in there because you've done better landscapes since then. But this one, the design is really well, and it usually shows up in the AP portfolio because they can get photographs really well. Here's another AP student and she used a value pattern. So there is recognizable subject matter, but there's an abstractness to it, and she used a very good value pattern. There's one more, and the end. So come on up here, I'll show you what we're going to do.